This was not the video I originally intended to publish. Before I'd even put out my last video, I was already working on an outline for a completely different video. One about gaming burnout, which talks about how things like hype culture, review aggregation, and hyperconsumption are causing us to feel burned out on our favourite hobby. It was turning out pretty good, and I'll probably still make it at some point. The reason I'm making this video instead is because that as I was fleshing out that script, it became clear that there was a pretty big elephant in the room. An elephant that threatened to trample the whole project. Games kind of feel like they're doomed, don't they? Irony is, I don't even really know where to start talking about this. Every time I try to pull an example of some horrible thing that's happening and use it as a jumping off point to start writing, another horrible thing happens before I've even had a chance to properly source the previous horrible thing and flesh out some talking points. Like, I jumped back into this doc to tidy up a few bits of the script, and literally the next day, NVIDIA dropped its horrendous GenAI DLSS5 yassification filter announcement video. And I'm sure by the time I come to edit this as a video, Future Amy will be able to put a graphic right here about another terrible announcement that's just happened. That this is the future of video games is envisioned by industry leaders like Jensen Huang, enthusiastically adopted by studio heads like Todd Howard, or companies like Capcom and Ubisoft, and met with excitement by the likes of Digital Foundry, is the perfect encapsulation of why video games kind of feel like they're over. It all just feels so bloody horrible. You try to escape from doom scrolling about the state of everything, only to end up doom scrolling about the state of video games, a thing which is supposed to provide an escape from the existential horrors of the world. Existential doom piling upon existential doom. Even when you're deep in the weeds of enjoying a game, it's like there's a dark cloud hanging over that enjoyment. Which is why this video has been using footage of Elden Ring, by the way. It's not leading to some deeper point, it just happens to be the game I'm playing as I write this script, trying to reconcile my passion for a medium that feels like it's falling apart. The mass layoffs, shitty business practices, and extraordinary mismanagement, the ever-increasing levels of toxicity for simply existing in an online gaming space or wanting to talk about games in public, the spectre of generative AI coming to kill everything in its path and take out most of the economy when the whole thing collapses, the ever-spiraling costs of games and hardware pricing out more and more people who just want to play fucking Donkey Kong, as we're led towards ditching hardware altogether in favor of renting computing power using cloud subscription services by executives who have no idea why people enjoy hobbies because they're weirdos who only care about making more money and think that putting out any old slop will keep people happy. Xbox, just in general. There's enough here for like 10 videos, or an hour-long one going into detail about how it feels like everything is fucked. Just a video that really gives into the doom that it feels like is pervasive throughout the entire medium. Luckily for both of us, I don't quite hate myself or you enough to make that video. I'll admit, it's some of my lowest moments I've definitely engaged in some doomerism. And maybe I should feel this overbearing sense of existential dread. Maybe those moments aren't simply me at my lowest, maybe that's just acceptance of the truth. But here's the thing though, 99% of the time I don't feel that way. I don't say this to be dismissive of the state of the games industry. The future that's being pushed by executives who don't understand why we play, paid for by the tens of thousands of incredibly talented and awesome people who have suffered at their hands or outright lost their jobs, or both, isn't something I would ever callously wave away. I feel a deep sadness over what we've lost. A vast sea of talented developers, each with unique experiences and perspectives, lost and potentially never coming back. They are the games industry, more so than studios, and especially more so than the executives that run them, and we're all worse off for their absence and continued mistreatment. For me, however, and probably you unless you work in it, gaming has never really been about the industry. It's about the art, the communities, and the people. When a sentient potato man screams about pronouns, or a washed ex-game developer leads a thoroughly misguided campaign about censorship, or every third piece of content you're recommended is rage bait designed to get you angry and keep you there, it can be difficult to see that the wider gaming community is actually full of really lovely people. Toxicity is a cancer within the gaming community that needs to be cut out. There's no denying that. I wouldn't even try. God knows being a trans femme she them with opinions about video games on the internet has caused me to bear the brunt of some of it. but toxicity only defines the gaming community if we let it. At the beginning of 2026, I spent a week watching a hotel full of passionate dorks celebrate video games. I'm referring to the speedrunning event Awesome Games Done Quick, or AGDQ, which is one of two marquee events, the other being Summer Games Done Quick, or SGDQ. I don't know why I'm explaining this to you. I mean, look at you. You already know what GDQ is. Thousands of speedrunners and fans of speedrunning descend on a hotel and spend a week raising incredible sums of money for charity, while tens of thousands, myself included, spend as much time as possible watching the stream or playing co-op in chat or chanting about eggs. Games Done Quick events are charity fundraisers first and foremost, and some of the highlights of the year, but the organization has also fostered an excellent community of people passionate about games, and also one that is incredibly warm and welcoming to a diverse group of people. Being able to tune into a big gaming event and hear hundreds of people keep chanting and cheering for trans rights is a great reminder that there are way more cool people in the gaming community than not. And a special shout out to my fellow Frame Fatales community members. I don't post much in the Discord or on streams because my social anxiety keeps me from feeling comfortable participating in large groups, which is something I'm working on, but I'm always lurking and you all are the best. There are tremendous people building fantastic communities all over the internet, both big and small. Last year, Alien Bob, a great and talented YouTuber whose body of work I will never stop recommending, created a forum called The Underscore, another gathering of cool people creating a welcoming space that it's just nice to be a part of. I've been blessed to meet so many cool people by being a part of the gaming community, from lifelong friends to lovely acquaintances to cool people who I follow on social media and occasionally interact with. That's the community right there, and that's the one that I love being a part of. It feels like we're standing on the precipice of a future for gaming no one except a few executives actually wants. Games made by generative AI, accessed by subscriptions that continuously increase in price while providing diminishing value, played on cloud computing that needs to be rented via massive data centers. All of that sucks tremendously. But as I read that paragraph back, I look over at all of my shelves full of films, books, and CDs. Well before video games, other industries have tried to push their visions of the future onto unwilling customers. The all-streaming, all-digital future, which was once an enticing proposition, was not immune to enshittification, it turns out. And also, apparently at some point, it was inevitable. As many of these platforms that once heralded a supposedly bright future continue to degrade, I take a great deal of comfort in the fact that DVDs, Blu-rays, vinyls, CDs, hardbacks, and paperbacks continue to exist. Some of them are even thriving. Sales of print books, for example, are increasing, and they have been for the last few years. Subscribing to vast streaming libraries was supposed to, in theory, be a really good thing. No matter what your tastes or what you're in the mood for, there's always something you can stick on when you boot up a streaming service, right? It turns out having instant access to thousands upon thousands of options can actually be a detriment to you finding something you want to watch, as a Nielsen survey from a few years ago found. Too many choices can lead to you feeling overwhelmed. And that's when they don't just outright delete something from their libraries, yeeting it into the void, never to be seen or heard from again. Yeah, I'm still mad about Infinity Train. I will never stop being mad about Infinity Train. Infinity Train is amazing, and they just deleted it, like it meant nothing. To start to bring this back around to gaming, this is exactly why over the past year I cut out things like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus and Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack. Wow, they really did call it that, didn't they? And even cancelled my gaming rental service. This is anecdotal and not related to the Nielsen survey I just mentioned, but being more purposeful and buying games rather than simply picking ones out from a huge digital online library actually led to me playing more and enjoying more. There's a reason I have all those games behind me. They're not just for show. I buy physical media whenever I can in all formats, and I've completely cut the cord on all of the streaming services, except for Dropout. I can make an exception for Dropout.
I've been here the whole time.
The damage that these platforms eventually inflicted on art was substantial, but not fatal. Even in the face of deliberate corporate sabotage, great art continues to be made, and much of it continues to be accessible for those of us who don't want to pay more for less. As more and more executives commit their studios to a generative AI future that threatens to turn video games into nothing but meaningless slop, content for the sake of content, designed as nothing more than bright and colourful distractions without purpose or the spark of human creativity, the future can feel especially bleak. Low-effort generative AI slop is already overrunning multiple gaming storefronts. But there are still so many people making so many fantastic, exciting, fun, and meaningful game experiences. I think of Blueprints, or Citizen Sleeper 2, or Keep Driving, or Animal Well, or Crow Country, or any one of a dozen other smaller games I've played just in the last few years alone, and I continue to be blown away by the incredible experiences I feel privileged to get to enjoy. Whenever I've talked about a game and had someone who made it thank me for making my video, I always feel bamboozled. I always feel like I'm not the one who should be thanked in this equation. Like, thank you to each and every developer for pouring your blood, sweat, and tears into the experiences that move me so frequently. All I did was sit in front of a word processor attempting to string a few coherent paragraphs together, to varying degrees of success. Smaller games are great and more people should play them for sure, but there are also bigger games being released that are just as full of passion and creativity. If you're at a large corporation, it can be more difficult to make something that doesn't feel focus tested to death, made to appeal to everyone, as all of its more interesting, sometimes rougher edges are sanded down to be as palatable to as many people as possible. And yet they keep finding a way. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a really tough time not bringing up a Souls game in every video I make. It's like Noah Caldwell-Gervais said, if you like Dark Souls, it's hard to shut up about Dark Souls. Hell, we've even managed to find ourselves in a somehow Konami returned era. Not because I think that Konami has decided to dedicate themselves to making great art, but because they seem to have noticed that when they allow incredibly talented and creative people to make things, they make money. Even in the face of nonsensical corporate decisions, even with the never-ending waves of studio closures and layoffs, even when the AI bubble bursts and things get worse for everyone, I can't see that fact changing. People, amazing people, will still make amazing games. But even if somehow this all does come crashing down around us and there are no more new games ever, or we're all priced out of games because of insane increases in the cost of hardware and software, or executives somehow fully get their way and we all have to buy subscriptions to rent time on cloud servers filled with generative AI slop, there are so many amazing experiences that already exist that I haven't experienced yet. For the last couple of months, my group chat with my fellow streaming co-hosts has been inundated with clips of Moody's many victories over the bosses of Elden Ring. We finally forced him to play the game after hitting a charity milestone, and he's fallen deep into the Elden Ring rabbit hole, just like I said he would. We keep getting these video clips of his so-called peak gaming, and like every single one is fantastic. I love seeing them. For me personally, I've been picking up games both ancient and relatively recent, and enjoying going back to experiences I've never had with all sorts of games. Like so far this year, I've been blowing off steam in Burnout 3, re-experiencing the early Medal of Honor games, making my way through Lies of P. I platinumed Elden Ring, which was Moody's fault. He kept posting those clips in Discord. I completed an absolutely ridiculous Resident Evil 2 challenge run. I played the brand new Star Trek game and also one of the oldest Star Trek games. Between drafts of this script, I've been pouring through a stack of old Edge magazines I have in a drawer and making notes of games from the late 2000s that seem like they might be interesting. Never let it be said I don't know how to party. The truth is that while there are plenty of upcoming games on my radar that I'm excited to dive into, like I just saw Dosa Divas is coming out this month, hello, there are so many more that I've never played that I'm excited to try for the first time. So much so that if there were somehow no more new games ever, or at least no new games without generative AI, or no games that I could afford to buy, I don't think it would be a massive problem for my gaming habits. Two of the games I most recently bought off the back of recommendations from friends were Kudelka and Onimusha. I've never played either of those series, and I'm really looking forward to diving in at some point this year. And later this year, Vitz and I will be playing Final Fantasy VII side by side. They'll be playing it for the first time, and I'll be replaying it for the 50th time. It's probably not that many times. It feels like it though. God, I fucking love Final Fantasy VII. I really can't wait for Vits to experience it. As a YouTube video essayist with journals full of more ideas for videos than I'm ever going to have time to make, there's so much I want to talk about and share with you all. As a YouTube video essay enjoyer, I can't wait to see all of the awesome videos that make me see games that I've played, or games that I've never played, or games that I've never even heard of from a vast array of different perspectives. As a streamer, I played the entirety of a game called Smarty's Meltdown for PlayStation 2, which, if you're wondering, is absolutely an officially licensed Smarty's game, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to streaming more older games of dubious quality alongside my other usual stuff like Resident Evil challenge runs and hanging out with friends while they play stuff, and maybe even playing some old multiplayer games together. Twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. And I also love hanging out in my friends' streams, like my good friend Luna Mothwings, who you all should be following by now, shooting the shit with them and with their chat while they play some games. I started this YouTube channel because I'm passionate about games. I simply can't shut up talking about them. I have a lot of hobbies and I'll gladly talk about them, but there's just something about video games that inspires me to fire up Audacity or Twitch or Google Docs and let the words pour out. This wasn't the video I intended to publish, but it was the video I felt like I needed to make. I want this to be a place where I get to talk about cool and interesting topics, to be a channel focused on positivity. But there's no way to ignore the elephant in the room. There is an ugly side to video games. It's always been there in one form or another, but it feels like it's getting worse. Studios being closed left and right, workers being laid off in their thousands, normal people like you and I being priced out of affording games and the hardware to run them. An industry collapsing. It would be relatively easy to write around these issues that plague gaming, to laser focus on specific points, stripped of any context that is too challenging or messy, in the name of remaining positive. In the first draft of this script, when talking about larger games with artistic merit, I talked about looking forward to playing Resident Evil Requiem, both as a longtime fan of the series and because the game looked really cool. And then Nvidia announced DLSS 5, an announcement which included this statement by executive producer and executive corporate officer at Capcom, Jun Takeuchi, alongside these screenshots of what Nvidia's newest slop filter will do to the game's protagonist, Grace Ashcroft. I quickly deleted the passage about looking forward to playing the game. And that fucking sucks, man. Resident Evil Requiem was made by a large group of talented game developers, ones who put everything into making the best game they could. I can't imagine how soul-destroying it must have been to suddenly see their creation run through the nightmare plagiarism machine. There is something rotten at the core of the games industry. And yet, video games are amazing. What I want to talk about more than anything else is the art that sets my mind ablaze. The quirky, the interesting, the weird, the wonderful. From Software's approach to difficulty selection, why the N64 controller is so strange, my love for games beginning with the letter P. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface on the many wonders I want to talk about. I'm not going to stop stubbornly arguing for a better industry for the people who work in it or calling out nonsense when I see it. And when I talk about focusing on positivity, that's not at the exclusion of casting a critical eye over the subjects I choose to cover, or stripping any topic I cover of context, even if that context is challenging. But I also don't want to give in to doomerism. Covering controversies, discourse, and the endless parade of bullshit isn't why I want to talk about video games. Like, if I am priced out of the future of gaming by the rising cost of games or the eye-watering prices of new hardware, if the industry becomes overrun with soulless slop, if the doom comes and brings everything to a sudden stop, that passion still exists. For me, and I'm guessing for you as well. I don't know why else you would have clicked on this video. That's what I mean when I talk about positivity, and that's what I choose to focus on. Because the alternative is to give in to despair. The video game industry is dead. Long live video games. Thank you very much for watching.